Hello and welcome. Today we're about to embark on a journey that will take you away from the chaos of everyday life, calm your mind, and invite you into a whole new world. If you're ready, sit back, take a deep breath, and focus only on this moment. When you're ready, let's begin. The frequency within. Maturing, the dawn crept softly across the mountain ridges, draping the world in a pale, trembling light. The air was cool, crisp, and still, yet beneath the quiet surface lay a subtle hum, a vibration that vibrated beneath the ordinary sounds of birds and wind. Orion sat alone on the rocky ledge, his legs crossed, eyes half closed, and breath measured like the gentle ebb and flow of ocean tides. Around him, the vast expanse of the valley stretched endlessly, but his attention was not outward. It was pulled inward, to the delicate, invisible currents that hummed within and beyond. For years, he had lived in the world of equations, measurements, and machines, where certainty was prized above all. But something had always troubled him, the feeling that beneath the layers of physical reality there was a more profound, subtle current, a secret language of the universe, composed not of matter, but of frequency. And now he was here, at the edge of solitude, to listen. The idea had come quietly at first, a low vibration, almost like a whisper beneath his skin. It was not something he could explain in formulas or words. It was a calling, a pulse, a tuning. That morning, as the sun's first rays touched the earth, Orion felt his own heartbeat slow, lengthen, and synchronize with the rhythm of the world around him. The wind brushing through the pines, the soft rustling of leaves, the distant trickle of a stream. Each sound was a note in an ancient symphony, but beneath these sounds was another level hidden from casual perception, a primal resonance. He recalled the lessons of Nikola Tesla, the man who had seen electricity not just as power, but as waves and frequencies flowing through all things. Tesla had said that if you wanted to find the secrets of the universe, you had to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Orion felt that Tesla's words now pulsed through him, more real than ever before. He closed his eyes, tuning his attention to the rhythm of his breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, like waves rolling on a shore. He imagined himself as a string on the vast cosmic instrument, vibrating gently, waiting for the right frequency to awaken it. The mountains stood silent, ancient witnesses. The air itself seemed to hum softly, as if the earth was breathing alongside him. Then, in the stillness, a new sensation began. A faint vibration at first, then growing steadily into a steady tone, deep and resonant. It was not inside him, nor entirely outside. It was both, a bridge between inner and outer, self and cosmos. Orion opened his eyes and saw the morning light dance upon the leaves, flickering like tiny stars. Each leaf seemed to vibrate with life, each blade of grass a delicate wire strummed by the unseen hand of the universe. He felt a surge of connection, a deep knowing, that this was the frequency of life itself. Hours passed. Orion remained seated, immersed in this vibration, his mind quieted, thoughts falling away like leaves in autumn. The boundary between himself and the world blurred. He was not separate from the mountain, the air, the light. He was a part of the same resonant field. In this space, time seemed to slow and stretch. Past and future melted into an endless present moment, each breath a wave cresting and folding back into the infinite. Orion's awareness expanded beyond his physical form. He felt the pulsations of his own cells, the electric impulses in his nerves, the rhythmic beating of his heart, all tuned into the same cosmic frequency. And then, as if summoned by this harmony, a presence appeared. Not a man, not a spirit, but a waveform, a figure formed from pulses of blue light, shimmering and vibrating in perfect resonance with the environment. Nikola Tesla, his eyes sparkled with the electric fire of discovery. "You have found the tuning," Tesla's voice echoed, not spoken aloud, but felt inside Orion's mind. Resonance is the key to understanding all things. The universe is a sea of energy, and every object, every thought, every life is a wave upon it. To change the world, you must first change your frequency. Nikola Tesla's luminous form hovered gently, a living pulse within the vast field of vibration. Orion felt the electric currents of Tesla's energy intertwine with his own breath, as if the very essence of resonance was communicating directly to his soul. "Look beyond the surface," Tesla's presence urged, "beyond the physical and tangible. Every atom, every molecule, every star you see is a symphony of oscillations, waves dancing through the void, creating the illusion of solid matter." Orion's eyes traced the patterns of light falling on the ground, watching how they shimmered and shifted with the slightest breeze. He imagined those patterns as the visual manifestation of invisible frequencies, the very music of existence. "Your body," Tesla continued, "is an instrument, finely tuned, but often out of harmony. The thoughts you think, the emotions you feel, the intentions you hold, all are vibrations, waves that ripple outward, influencing the world you inhabit." Orion's mind drifted to the memory of tuning a violin, the delicate adjustment of the strings, the tension carefully balanced until each note sang pure and clear. What if the human spirit could be tuned like this, to resonate perfectly with the underlying frequency of the universe? In that moment, the line between science and spirituality blurred. Tesla was no longer just a historical figure, but a guide in this inner exploration. Orion closed his eyes once again, sinking deeper into his meditation. His breath slowed until it matched the rhythm of his heartbeat, a steady drum in the vast silence. He imagined a great cosmic harp, its strings stretched across galaxies, vibrating in perfect unison. Each thought, each feeling was a finger plucking these strings, sending ripples through the fabric of space and time. The sensation was at once humbling and empowering. He was a small wave in an infinite ocean, yet that wave carried the potential to change the entire sea. Tesla's voice echoed within, now softer, more like a whisper riding on the wind. To find your true frequency, he said, you must release resistance. Resistance is discord. It is the tension that causes pain and disconnection. When you let go, when you align your inner vibrations with the greater harmony, healing and transformation arise naturally. Orion felt warmth spreading through his chest, a subtle energy blossoming like a flame ignited from within. He thought about the moments in life when time seemed to slow, when a glance, a smile, or a breath held infinite meaning. These were moments of resonance, when inner and outer harmonized. And now, in this sacred silence, he was beginning to understand how to cultivate these moments consciously. Time lost meaning. The morning bled into afternoon as Orion remained absorbed in this state of being. Nature around him became a living mandala of vibration. The whispering wind, the rustling leaves, the distant call of birds, all intertwined in a sacred frequency. He became aware of subtle sensations within his body, tingles, waves of warmth, pulses of light coursing through his veins. These were the echoes of resonance, awakening at the cellular level, a physical response to the inner tuning. His mind unfolded layers of understanding, revealing that frequency was not merely a scientific concept, but a language of connection between mind and body, self and other, humanity and cosmos. The sun began to dip low, painting the sky with streaks of orange and violet. Orion opened his eyes, now shimmering with a gentle radiance. He stood and stretched, feeling grounded yet expansive. In his pocket lay a small journal, its pages blank, waiting to be filled with insights from this journey. He took out a pen and wrote slowly, "I am a wave in the cosmic sea. My breath is the rhythm, my heart the drum, in tuning myself to the universal frequency. I find peace beyond understanding, so that upward resistance falls away like leaves in the wind. I am resonance, my connection. I am light in motion." He closed the journal and smiled softly. The journey had only just begun. As twilight deepened, Orion remained seated on the rocky ledge, the cool evening air wrapping around him like a gentle embrace. Above, the first stars began to pierce the darkening sky, their distant light pulsing with steady, ancient rhythms. His gaze lifted upward, tracing constellations, silent witnesses to countless cycles of vibration and change. Each star a blazing beacon of energy, oscillating with its own unique frequency, yet resonating within the grand symphony of the cosmos. Orion's breath found a new cadence, slow and deliberate, as if syncing with the pulsation of those distant suns. In this vast silence, his mind journeyed inward again, traveling down to the microscopic symphony within his own cells. He visualized the molecules dancing in a perpetual ballet, proteins folding, DNA spiraling, electrons orbiting nuclei, all expressions of vibrating energy, living the language of frequency. The realization dawned. His body was not merely flesh and bone, but a magnificent orchestra of resonances, each cell a musician playing its part in perfect harmony. This awareness brought a profound tenderness, an intimate connection to the very fabric of his existence. The teachings of Tesla echoed anew. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Orion contemplated the power of this insight, not as abstract theory, but as a living truth. His mind wandered to the concept of entrainment, the tendency of oscillating bodies to synchronize their rhythms when brought into proximity, like metronomes clicking in unison or fireflies flashing together in the night. Resonance was the invisible thread weaving individuals into community, moments into flow, minds into unity. In meditation, entrainment was felt as the merging of breath and awareness, a tuning of inner waves to the steady pulse of presence. He breathed deeply, inviting this synchrony to deepen, allowing the boundaries between self and world to soften. Time became fluid. Minutes melted into hours as Orion explored this state of expanded resonance. Thoughts arose and fell away like gentle waves upon a shore. Emotions shimmered briefly, then dissolved into calm. In this space, the notion of control lost its grip. Instead, surrender blossomed. A trust in the flow of energy, a willingness to be carried by the currents of existence. A sudden breeze stirred the leaves, carrying a faint fragrance of pine and earth. Orion smiled, feeling nature's pulse entwined with his own. He opened his eyes and watched the fireflies emerge, their tiny lights flickering in rhythmic pulses, a living echo of the universe's heartbeat. Each light blinked not randomly but with purpose, a signal in the night. He realized the dance of frequencies was everywhere, in stars, in stones, in the smallest creatures. The cosmos was alive, speaking in a language of waves. Orion took out his journal again, pen poised. He wrote slowly, thoughtfully. In every breath, I tune my instrument. In every moment, I choose resonance over resistance. The universe sings, and I am part of its melody. To align with this song is to find peace beyond thought. He closed the journal gently, his heart full. This was only the beginning of a long journey toward deeper understanding and awakening. The harmonic field. The dawn was softer this time, brushing the earth with a delicate palette of lavender and rose. Orion awoke to the quiet hum of the world stirring, but his mind carried a new clarity, a sense of expansion that reached beyond the boundaries of his skin and bones. His journal lay open beside him, pages filled with reflections from the day before, notes on vibration, resonance, and the first whispers of a deeper truth. But today's journey would take him further. As he stepped outside, the morning air greeted him with a cool breath that seemed to vibrate with possibility. Orion's thoughts turned to Albert Einstein, a mind that had reshaped humanity's understanding of time, space, and energy. Einstein's brilliance was not only in his theories, but in his ability to perceive the universe as a seamless whole, a harmonic field where energy, matter, and consciousness intertwined. He recalled Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc2, a simple formula that revealed the profound truth. Energy and matter are interchangeable, different expressions of the same fundamental substance. Orion felt this truth resonate deeply within him. He closed his eyes and breathed slowly, tuning into the subtle vibrations that permeated his being. The mountain around him seemed alive with a subtle frequency, a field of interconnected energy flowing through rocks, trees, and air. Orion imagined the earth itself as a vast resonant field, its energy waves pulsing through crust and core, connecting all life. This field was like a vast ocean of energy, where every being was a wave within the greater whole. His breath deepened as he visualized the harmonic waves flowing through his own body, energy centers glowing softly, radiating light and warmth. Orion recalled the idea of coherence, the alignment of waves in phase, creating amplified power and clarity. He realized that coherence was not only a physical phenomenon, but a state of consciousness, a place where mind and heart tuned into the same frequency. Opening his eyes, Orion watched as the morning light played across the leaves, each one shimmering with its own unique vibration. He reached out and touched a leaf gently, feeling the life pulsing beneath its surface. In that moment, he sensed a profound unity between himself, the leaf, the mountain, and the entire cosmos. The harmonic field was not a distant abstraction, but a living reality. It was the invisible web of resonance that connected all things, holding them in delicate balance. Orion sat back down and let his awareness settle into this field. He felt the subtle currents flowing through his limbs and organs, the electrical impulses firing in his brain, the rhythm of his heart beating in time with the earth. Meditation became a journey through these layers of resonance, from the tiniest cell to the vast mountain, from his breath to the stars overhead. Each moment was an opportunity to deepen his tuning, to align more fully with the harmonic field. He opened his journal and began to write. The universe is a vast ocean of energy, where every wave sings its own song, yet all are bound by a common rhythm. To tune into this rhythm is to awaken to the unity within and without. Orion's heart swelled with gratitude for the harmony he felt growing within him. This was a dance of frequencies, a sacred melody that transcended time and space. He closed the journal and sat in quiet reverence, knowing that the path ahead was long but radiant. As Orion settled deeper into the embrace of the harmonic field, his breath became a bridge, carrying him gently between the worlds of thought and feeling, science and spirit. He envisioned waves upon waves, layering and overlapping, creating intricate patterns of resonance. Each wave was a thread woven into the vast tapestry of existence, inseparable and whole. Orion's mind wandered to Einstein's insight about space and time, not as fixed absolutes, but as dynamic, flexible dimensions intertwined with energy itself. This fluidity mirrored his own inner experience, a constant flow, an ever-shifting dance of frequencies aligning and realigning. The idea of coherence came alive in his body as a gentle warmth spreading from his heart center outward. In physics, coherence meant waves were in phase, reinforcing each other to create powerful, harmonious effects. In his meditation, coherence was the alignment of mind, body, and universe, a state of profound peace and clarity. He breathed in sync with this truth, sensing how his individual frequency intertwined with the greater cosmic resonance. His heartbeat echoed, not as a solitary drum, but as part of a universal rhythm, ancient and eternal. Aside, the mountain whispered its secrets, the rustling leaves, the distant call of a hawk, the steady murmur of a hidden stream, all vibrated with life. Orion perceived these sounds not as isolated noises, but as an interwoven symphony, a live broadcast of the Earth's pulse. He reached out mentally, connecting with the unseen currents flowing through every living cell around him. His consciousness expanded to include not just his own body, but the moss on the rock, the soil beneath his feet, and even the vast sky above. This interconnectedness was the essence of the harmonic field, a seamless web of resonance binding all matter and energy. To dwell in this field was to recognize the unity beneath apparent diversity. Orion's thoughts settled like stones in a clear pond. In the stillness, he sensed a subtle shift, a vibration not just around him but within him. It was as if his very molecules were tuning to a higher frequency, a delicate dance of energy that transcended ordinary perception. He reflected on the idea that human consciousness might itself be a resonant field, capable of influencing and being influenced by the environment. Recent scientific research hinted at this possibility. The biophoton emissions from cells, the subtle electromagnetic fields generated by the heart and brain. Orion realized his journey was not only inward but outward, tuning his own frequency to resonate with the natural world, creating harmony where once there was dissonance. He opened his journal again and wrote slowly, thoughtfully, "I am a wave within waves, a note within the cosmic song. When I align with the harmonic field, separation dissolves and unity blooms. This is the true power of resonance, to awaken, connect, and heal." The words felt like keys unlocking deeper chambers within his heart. He closed the journal and gazed once more at the stars now bright in the night sky. Each flickering point was a beacon of vibrational light, a reminder that the dance of resonance was universal, from the smallest quark to the mightiest galaxy. Orion lay back on the earth, feeling cradled by the mountain's ancient presence. His breathing slowed to a near whisper, his mind fully immersed in the infinite field of vibration. He knew that this was just the beginning of a vast journey, one that would lead him to encounters with other great minds, deeper insights into frequency and resonance, and ultimately a transformation of consciousness itself. With a peaceful smile, he surrendered to the harmonic field, becoming, at last, a living note in the endless symphony of the universe. The quantum whisper. Night had deepened into a velvet black, punctuated by a tapestry of stars shimmering with ancient light. Orion sat alone beneath the vast expanse, the cool earth grounding him as his mind journeyed inward and outward simultaneously. He felt as though he stood at the threshold of two worlds, the tangible and the intangible, the measurable and the mysterious. The boundary between certainty and uncertainty blurred into a shimmering veil of possibility. It was here that the whispers of quantum reality began to call. The name Niels Bohr echoed softly in Orion's thoughts, a figure whose insights had forever changed humanity's understanding of nature's deepest laws. Bohr's revolutionary idea was that the quantum world did not obey the strict determinism of classical physics. Instead, it was a realm of probabilities where particles existed in multiple states simultaneously, a delicate dance of waves and particles intertwined. Orion closed his eyes and breathed deeply, feeling the weight of this paradox settling into his consciousness. He imagined Bohr appearing beside him, not as a solid form, but as a shimmering wave of light and energy, a living embodiment of the quantum duality. "Welcome," Bohr's voice resonated inside his mind, "to the world where certainty dissolves and possibility reigns." Orion's breath slowed to a gentle rhythm as he surrendered to the quantum whisper. He visualized himself diving beneath the surface of reality, plunging into an ocean of probabilities and resonances. He became aware of particles flickering in and out of existence, their waves overlapping in complex interference patterns, a cosmic ballet of creation and destruction. In this realm, observation was not passive but transformative. The very act of witnessing a particle forced it to choose a state, collapsing the wave of possibilities into a single reality. Orion understood now that consciousness and reality were entwined in a profound interplay of resonance. Bohr's presence shimmered closer. "To perceive the quantum world," Bohr said softly, "you must embrace uncertainty as a fundamental truth. It is not a flaw or limitation, but the very source of creativity and freedom." Orion nodded, feeling his mind expand to accommodate this new way of seeing. He realized that meditation was itself a quantum act, a focused observation, collapsing the chaos of the mind into moments of clarity. His breath became a wave, rising and falling in harmony with the unseen frequencies around him. The night air was alive with the silent music of the universe. Orion felt himself dissolving into the quantum field, no longer separate, but a resonant node in the vast network of possibilities. In this infinite dance, the duality of wave and particle, form and emptiness, self and other, began to merge. He was both observer and observed, creator and creation. Orion opened his journal and wrote, "In the whisper of the quantum, I find the song of existence, a melody woven from uncertainty and light. To resonate with this song is to awaken beyond form, to dance freely within the infinite." He closed the book, a smile touching his lips. The quantum whisper was no longer a mystery, but a guide, inviting him to journey ever deeper into the resonance of being. As Orion sat beneath the endless canopy of stars, the quantum whisper grew louder within his awareness. The silence around him was pregnant with unseen vibrations, subtle waves flowing through the fabric of reality. He allowed his mind to dissolve into the depths of this quantum sea, a realm where certainty gave way to possibility, and where every thought was both a ripple and a current. The paradox of existence unfolded before him, particles that were waves, waves that could become particles, existence that was both here and there, now and then. Orion breathed deeply, feeling the unity of opposites, the dance of duality becoming a singular flow. Niels Bohr's luminous presence seemed to merge with the stars themselves, a living constellation of wisdom and light. Every observation is an act of creation. Bohr's voice echoed softly. Your consciousness does not merely witness reality, it participates in its unfolding. The universe is not fixed, but fluid, shaped by resonance, by attention, by intention. Orion reflected on this, realizing that meditation was not just passive contemplation, but an active tuning of his inner frequency to the cosmic pulse. He envisioned his consciousness as a tuning fork, vibrating in sync with the fundamental frequency of existence. Each breath sent waves of coherence rippling outward, collapsing uncertainty into clarity. The quantum fields shimmered, revealing a lattice of interconnected nodes, points where possibility condensed into reality, where cause and effect intertwined like threads in a vast tapestry. Orion saw himself as one node among infinite others, each resonating with its own unique frequency, yet bound together by a deeper harmony. In this web of resonance, separation was an illusion. Everything was connected in a dance of vibration and light. He felt the profound freedom in this realization, the freedom to create, to change, to align with the infinite potential of the quantum realm. Time seemed to fold, and Orion drifted in a timeless ocean of waves. His breath became a mantra, rise and fall, ebb and flow, echoing the eternal rhythm of the universe. He surrendered fully to the quantum whisper, allowing it to guide him beyond the limits of linear thought. In this space, past and future vanished, leaving only the radiant present. Orion opened his journal once more and wrote with steady hands, "In the quantum dance, I am both wave and particle, observer and creator, boundless and free. To resonate with the universe is to embrace uncertainty, to flow with possibility, and to awaken to infinite being." He closed the journal, his heart alight with quiet joy. The journey through the quantum whisper had revealed a profound truth, that at the heart of all things lay a vibration, a sacred resonance connecting mind, matter, and spirit. Orion smiled, knowing that this was but one step in an endless journey toward harmony and awakening. The resonant mind. The first light of morning painted the horizon in soft golds and pinks. As Orion awoke from a night filled with quantum dreams, his body still rested on the cool earth, but his mind stirred with new awareness, a deeper understanding of the dance between inner frequency and outer reality. As he rose, he recalled the work of modern neuroscientists who explored the brain's rhythms, the alpha, beta, theta, and delta waves pulsing through the neural networks like a symphony of energy. These brain waves were not mere electrical signals. They were vibrations, frequencies that shaped perception, emotion, and awareness. Orion's meditation had opened a gateway into these subtle currents, and now he sought to understand how the mind itself resonated with the universe. He sat beneath a towering cedar, its ancient branches reaching toward the sky, and closed his eyes. The steady rhythm of his breath became a metronome, guiding him inward. He imagined the waves of his brain sinking into coherent patterns, alpha waves creating relaxed alertness, theta waves opening the doors of intuition and deep creativity. Orion's thoughts drifted to the work of Dr. Hans Berger, the pioneer who discovered the human brain's electrical activity through the electroencephalogram, EEG. Berger had revealed that the brain was a dynamic field of resonance, constantly shifting and evolving. Orion visualized his neurons firing in harmony, a chorus of electrical pulses weaving a tapestry of consciousness. In this state, he perceived the mind as a resonant chamber, amplifying some frequencies, dampening others, creating the rich texture of experience. The concept of neuroplasticity came to him, the brain's ability to rewire and retune itself, shaped by attention and intention. This plasticity was a profound form of resonance, the mind's capacity to adapt and evolve in harmony with its environment. Orion breathed deeply, feeling his own neural rhythms settle into waves of calm clarity. He sensed that meditation was not only a way to quiet the mind, but a means to retune it, to align internal frequencies with those of the greater whole. Opening his eyes, Orion looked upward through the cedar branches, now filtering sunlight, into a mosaic of light and shadow. He realized that just as the universe resonated in waves of energy, so too did consciousness vibrate in patterns of awareness. The resonance of the mind could open doors to expanded perception, realms where time and space folded and the self merged with the infinite. He smiled softly, knowing that the next steps on his journey would take him deeper into these mysteries. He reached for his journal and wrote, "My mind is a field of waves, ever shifting, ever flowing. Through resonance, I find clarity. Through coherence, peace. The brain is not fixed, but alive, tuning itself to the music of being." Closing the journal, Orion breathed in the new day, a symphony of frequencies both within and beyond. Orion sank deeper into stillness beneath the cedar's ancient boughs, his breath a gentle tide washing over the shores of awareness. Inside, the rhythms of his mind began to harmonize, a symphony composed not by accident, but by intention and resonance. He reflected on the remarkable discoveries of neuroscientists who had revealed the mind's subtle dance of frequencies. These brainwaves, shifting between alpha, beta, theta, and delta, created the landscape of consciousness. From focused thought to deep sleep, from calm wakefulness to profound insight. Orion's meditation was tuning his neural orchestra, coaxing these waves into coherent patterns that enhanced clarity and calm. He visualized the alpha waves like gentle ripples on a lake, the gateway to relaxed awareness and creative insight. Theta waves followed like deeper currents, realms of intuition and healing. The interplay of these waves was not random, but orchestrated by the mind's innate desire to resonate with peace. As the minutes passed, Orion felt the subtle vibration of his own heartbeat merge with the rhythms of his breath and mind. This triple resonance, heart, breath, brain, formed a triad of coherence, amplifying his sense of connection. Scientific studies confirmed this phenomenon. Heart coherence could influence brain activity, and together they created a field of electromagnetic resonance detectable beyond the body. Orion smiled, sensing the profound implications. His inner frequencies did not exist in isolation. They radiated outward, interacting with the environment and others. He was a resonant beacon, capable of influencing and being influenced, shaping his reality through the subtle language of vibration. In this state of coherence, Orion sensed a doorway opening, a portal to expanded perception. He recalled studies on the pineal gland, often called the seat of the soul, which responded to electromagnetic fields and might serve as a receiver of subtle frequencies beyond ordinary senses. His meditation awakened this center, and he felt waves of light ripple through his forehead, illuminating pathways of inner knowing. He realized that consciousness itself was a resonant field, an ever-evolving dance of energy and awareness, bridging mind and universe. Orion opened his journal and wrote, "Through the resonance of heart, breath, and mind, I open to the infinite flow of being. Coherence is the harmony within, the sacred alignment of self and cosmos. I am a vessel of vibration, a channel of light and life." He closed the book gently, feeling a quiet gratitude for the unfolding journey. The resonant mind was a gateway, a bridge between the tangible and the transcendent, the known and the mysterious. Orion knew his path would lead onward into realms where science and spirit merged, where frequency was the language of awakening. The symphony of nature. Morning light filtered softly through the canopy of the ancient forest, casting dappled patterns on the moss-covered earth. Orion wandered slowly along a winding path, every step attuned to the subtle hum of life surrounding him. Here, in the heart of nature, he sought to deepen his understanding of resonance, not only within himself, but in the vast network of living beings. The forest was alive with invisible waves, vibrations passing through the air, the soil, the roots beneath his feet. Every leaf, every branch, every creature participated in a symphony of communication woven by frequency. Orion paused beside a towering oak, its bark rough beneath his fingertips. He recalled the discoveries of biologists who revealed that plants communicated through chemical signals and vibrations, ultrasound pulses traveling through roots and air, sharing information about danger, nourishment, and growth. He imagined the oak sending silent messages to its neighbors, a forest-wide web of resonance sustaining life. Birds above sang in intricate patterns, their calls weaving together in harmonic sequences. Each note was a frequency, finely tuned to convey meaning and emotion, a language older than words. Even the tiniest insects vibrated with purpose, their movements creating ripples of sound and energy. In this living orchestra, Orion felt a profound kinship. Nature's resonance was not random noise, but a carefully balanced symphony where every frequency had its place. He realized that his own internal tuning was a reflection of this external harmony. By aligning with nature's rhythms, he could deepen his connection to the whole. He sat quietly, closing his eyes and breathing in sync with the forest's pulse. Each inhale drew in the vibrant energy of the earth. Each exhale released tension, flowing back into the living web. As his awareness expanded, Orion sensed the boundaries between self and nature dissolving. He was not separate from the forest, but a note within its grand composition. The trees, the animals, the earth, all were resonant beings, sharing a sacred frequency. In this communion, he found peace and purpose. Opening his journal, he wrote, "In the symphony of nature, every vibration is a voice, every frequency a thread, weaving life into unity. To listen deeply is to connect. To resonate is to belong." The forest around him seemed to breathe with his words, a living testament to the power of resonance. Orion rose, heart full, ready to continue his journey, attuned to the eternal music that flowed through all things. The forest deepened, and with each step, Orion felt as though he were entering a temple, not one built by human hands, but one shaped by time, roots, wind, and stillness. Every branch swayed with grace. Every rustle of leaves sounded like ancient hymns played in the key of life. The air itself seemed to shimmer with resonance. Orion's senses sharpened. He noticed how each sound carried a specific vibration and how those vibrations influenced not only his mood but the forest's subtle choreography. There were no wasted movements, no excess, only purpose and harmony. He paused beside a patch of ferns where tiny insects moved about in ritual precision. He recalled the research of scientists like Monica Gagliano, who proposed that plants respond not only to light and water, but to sound, that they can hear frequencies and even generate them. Another deeply impressive oi nomine lui art t blit terog studies showed that when exposed to certain vibrational tones, roots grew faster, stronger, and more directionally accurate. High-frequency vibrations could deter predators, while soothing tones helped plants heal. Orion smiled, imagining the trees as great tuning forks, vibrating across decades and centuries, resonating with the storms, with each sunrise, with the quiet footfalls of animals moving below their boughs. He closed his eyes again and felt his own inner vibration. It pulsed in tune with the rustling leaves. His breath matched the rhythm of wind weaving through pines. Even his heart, steady, calm, seemed to echo the beat of the woodpecker tapping high above. He remembered something Einstein once suggested, that human beings are part of a whole called the universe, limited in time and space, yet still one with everything else. Orion realized that harmony with nature wasn't poetic fantasy, it was physics. His body, like everything else, responded to waves. Tuning to nature was not a metaphor, it was a return to source. A flock of birds lifted from the treetops in sudden unison, their movement fluid, like a single thought made visible. This was resonance too. Biologists had studied how birds in a flock or fish in a school didn't simply follow each other's eyes, but responded to subtle vibrations and pressure changes in the air and water. A collective frequency of intent. It was nature's version of entrainment, each being sinking to a central rhythm, not enforced by force, but by flow. Could humans return to such harmony? Could their minds, so often scattered and chaotic, relearn this wisdom? Orion wandered further, until he reached a clearing where wildflowers danced in the breeze. He sat again, this time resting both palms flat on the ground. The soil beneath was cool, humming with life. He thought of mycorrhizal networks, the wood wide web, where fungi connected the roots of trees across entire forests, transmitting chemical messages and even electrical signals. These networks didn't just transfer nutrients, they conveyed warning signals, stored memories, coordinated flowering and regeneration, all in frequencies too low or subtle for human ears. But Orion didn't need ears. He felt it, the vibrations running beneath the surface, steady as a pulse, gentle as breath. He picked up his journal and wrote, slowly, reverently, "The earth sings, not with sound, but with vibration. The trees speak in frequencies. The rivers chant in waves. I do not need to understand it all, only to listen and resonate." He paused, the pen resting softly against the page. His hand tingled with energy. He closed the journal and lay back on the grass, gazing at the sky, now filling with shifting clouds. His body had become lighter. The more he resonated with nature, the less he felt like an isolated self, and more like an expression of something ancient and vast. He drifted into a waking dream. In it, he stood at the center of a great forest cathedral. Instead of organ music, the wind sang through branches. Instead of incense, pine and soil perfumed the air. Birds called out like bells, and beneath it all was a low, steady hum, the resonance of life itself. When he awoke, the sun had moved across the sky. Shadows stretched long beside him, and the song of the forest had changed, shifting into its afternoon cadence. Orion stood slowly, placing his hand once more on a nearby trunk. He whispered, "Thank you." Though the tree did not answer, he felt the frequency of that gratitude ripple outward, absorbed by root and soil and sky. Dusk returned with quiet majesty, and Orion climbed to the highest point of the mountain ridge, a stony outcrop where the horizon unfolded in all directions, and the heavens seemed close enough to touch. The stars began to appear again, as they had countless times before. But this night they called to him not just as distant lights, but as instruments. vibrating bodies strung across the black velvet of space. He sat in stillness, heart open, gaze upward. He had walked through forests that whispered in roots and leaves. He had felt the quantum breath of uncertainty and tuned his brain to inner coherence. Now his consciousness stretched outward, beyond breath and thought, seeking the source of the grandest resonance of all. As he entered meditation, a new figure appeared before him, not bound by time or space, robed in flowing white, with eyes like polished spheres of obsidian. The figure was Pythagoras. The philosopher mystic spoke not in voice, but in tone, a harmonic vibration that echoed directly in Orion's chest. As above, so within, the vibration said, "The universe is not chaos, but a harmony. Every planet, every star, every orbit sings." Orion understood without language. He remembered what Pythagoras had taught, that numbers were sacred, and that the movement of celestial bodies could be expressed as musical ratios, intervals of sound made visible through orbit and time. He saw it now. The moon's slow arc around the Earth was a note, the Earth's journey around the Sun another. Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, all contributing deeper, slower tones, and far out, at the edge of perception, the stars and galaxies emitted their own vibrations, symphonic, ancient, endless. This was not metaphor. In the silence of space, there was still music, not audible to ears, but resonant in the fabric of time itself. Scientists had later found these truths encoded in light. Johannes Kepler had devoted years to uncovering the harmonices mundi, the harmony of the worlds, attempting to match planetary orbits to musical scales. Centuries later, astronomers had recorded the oscillations of stars and translated them into sound. The universe, it turned out, did sing in frequencies of pressure, light, and gravitational waves. Orion's meditation deepened. His body disappeared. He became a point of awareness, a listening vessel. He traveled through the solar system like a silent pilgrim. The sun's corona flared in deep rumbling pulses. Venus sang like a silver flute. Jupiter boomed with slow rolling thunder, a bass so powerful it vibrated space itself. The rings of Saturn created chords, shimmering and crystalline. Beyond the planets, Orion felt the Milky Way's slow spiral, a deep, ancient hum, like the breath of the universe itself. He realized that galaxies moved in waves, that black holes sang low notes that rippled across space-time, that every celestial body was part of an orchestra, immense and perfectly timed. And here he was, one small life, yet part of that music. His heart was not separate. It beat in tempo with the moon. His mind did not exist outside the cosmos. It shimmered like a string, plucked gently by the passing frequencies of light and time. Opening his journal once more, with hands that barely felt material, he wrote, "I am a note in the music of the spheres. My thoughts are echoes of orbits. a breath, a measure in cosmic time. The stars do not shine in silence. They sing, and I am part of their song. He closed the journal and let the cool wind pass through him. The stars wheeled overhead in their ancient procession. There was no fear in their presence, only awe and belonging. For the first time, Orion understood that the sacred was not separate from the scientific. Frequency was not just a tool for measurement, it was a language, perhaps the language, of the universe. Orion remained seated beneath the sky's dome, suspended in a space where time flowed, not as minutes, but as music. Each second stretched into a long note. Each breath was a rest between movements in the grand composition. His meditation deepened, not into silence, but into soundless harmony, a realm where frequency could be felt, not heard. He now sensed the curvature of space itself as a slow bending tone, as if gravity were not merely a force, but a rhythm, pulling light, matter, and mind into celestial spirals. And there, in the vastness, he heard something deeper still, of a background hum. At first it was nearly imperceptible, like the farthest vibration of a bass string, but as his awareness adjusted, the tone expanded, enveloping him like a cradle. It was the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, still reverberating through all things. Physicists had once described this as residual heat, but Orion now felt it as memory. The first vibration, the seed frequency from which all others sprang, every planet's orbit, every cell's division, every heartbeat traced itself back to that one moment, a primordial chord that had never stopped resonating. And it wasn't just vast celestial bodies that sang. On the smallest scales, too, resonance ruled. Orion recalled string theory, the elegant hypothesis that all particles, all forms of matter, were not static points but vibrating strings. Each vibration gave rise to a different particle, a photon, a quark, an electron, like different notes played on a single instrument. The universe, it seemed, was not made of things, but of music, of vibrations, of frequencies singing form into existence. A sense of profound humility rose within him. He thought of how every human body, including his own, was a product of star light and resonance, that the calcium in his bones was forged in supernovae, that the iron in his blood once belonged to dying stars, that his brain with all its memories and desires was but a temporary configuration of vibrational energy. And yet it mattered, not in spite of this truth, but because of it. The smallness of the self did not diminish its meaning, it enhanced it. For even a whisper, when tuned precisely, can move mountains. A soft wind stirred the trees below. In that moment, Orion felt as though the earth itself were listening to the stars, leaning toward them as a violin might lean toward the cello in an orchestra. He imagined the solar system not as a collection of lonely spheres, but as a tightly coordinated ensemble, each orbit a tempo, each moon an overtone, each comet a solo phrase sweeping across the stage. Even Earth had its song, a deep resonant frequency called the Schumann resonance, the vibration of the space between Earth and its ionosphere, measured at 7.83 Hertz. It was a tone that some mystics claimed aligned with human brainwaves, specifically the theta state of deep meditation and intuition. Orion was no longer surprised. Of course, the human brain would evolve in resonance with the planet. Of course, the mind and the world would reflect each other's vibrations. With reverence, he lifted his journal once more and wrote, "I am not separate from the stars. I am not beneath them. I am made of them. Their frequencies sing through me, shaping my thoughts, my heartbeat, my breath. The cosmos is not out there, it is in here. We are not listeners to the universe's song. We are part of its choir." The final words on the page vibrated softly, as if still resonating with the truth they carried. Orion looked again to the stars, not with longing, but with recognition. He had heard the music of the spheres, and he knew now resonance was not merely a concept, nor a phenomenon. It was a principle of being, the pulse of creation itself, and it had led him here, to this moment, to this stillness, to this radiant awareness that he was, and always had been, part of a sacred and endless harmony. The healing way, Orion descended the mountain slowly, step by meditative step, the stars still resonating within him. Though night had passed, their light remained, not just above, but inside. He felt different now, not enlightened, not complete, but tuned. Each step on the stone and soil felt precise, purposeful, as if the mountain itself were guiding him along a spiral path of awakening. But today, his attention turned not to the cosmos above, but to the body, his own body, made of matter, memory, water, and light. He now sought to understand what happens when frequency heals. The air was warmer at the base of the mountain, and Orion found a place by a stream where reeds swayed gently in the breeze. He sat beside the water, listening to the gurgling flow, a naturally tuned frequency, endlessly reshaped by stone and motion. He remembered the ancient belief held across civilizations that sound could heal, in temples of Egypt, in Ayurvedic chants, in Tibetan bowls, in shamanic drums. Vibration was used to alter consciousness, release pain, and restore balance. These weren't myths, they were technologies, biological resonance. Orion had read of cymatics, the study of visible sound. He recalled how sand sprinkled on metal plates formed mandala-like patterns when specific frequencies passed through them. He had watched videos where water, exposed to music, danced in spirals and stars. How much more sensitive, then, was the human body? The human body, a liquid crystal temple of vibration. Every organ, every cell, Even every strand of DNA, he remembered, had its own resonant frequency. When healthy, these frequencies were coherent, in harmony, but trauma, disease, or emotional pain disrupted them. He had read of scientists like Dr. James Oshman and Dr. Gerald Pollack, who described the body as not just chemical, but electromagnetic, with cells that communicated through subtle biofields. Healing, then, might not only be pharmacological, but vibrational. Orion breathed deeply, closed his eyes, and turned his attention inward. He imagined the cells of his body as small tuning forks, each one vibrating gently. He scanned slowly from head to toe, not to analyze, but to listen. He could feel where the resonance was strong, his chest, his limbs, his hands. And he felt the quieter spaces too, tension in his shoulders, a slight ache in the back of his neck. He did not judge these places. He offered them vibration, with breath, with intention, with sound. He let out a soft hum, a tone born not from thought, but from sensing. It emerged from his chest like a beam of golden sound. He changed the pitch slowly, observing how different tones created different sensations. Low tones grounded him. High tones lit the space behind his eyes. He continued, letting the stream beside him harmonize. This was not chanting. This was tuning. He had become both instrument and musician. In his mind, images began to rise of healing rituals in temples where priestesses sang into illness, of monks in caves using gongs to clear trauma, of biofield tuning sessions where tuning forks, when passed over the body, would vibrate more strongly or fall silent depending on the energetic imbalances beneath. He recalled the experiments of Dr. Masaru Emoto, whose controversial but poetic studies claimed that water, the substance that made up most of the human body, formed beautiful crystals when exposed to kind words, music, and prayer, and chaotic patterns when exposed to anger or discord. Orion wondered, "What music does my body remember?" He wrote in his journal, slowly, "My body is not broken. It is an orchestra in need of tuning. Pain is a disharmony, a signal of imbalance, not failure. Through sound, breath, and attention, I return each note to the chord. I do not fix myself. I listen, and I sing." He opened his eyes. The stream sparkled with morning sun. A single bird called from above, one tone, pure and clear. Orion repeated it gently, not to mimic, but to harmonize. And in that moment, he felt a gentle shift, a release, not grand, not miraculous, but deep, like a knot loosening in invisible string. He stood slowly, feeling the soft pulse of energy in his hands. He understood now. Healing wasn't always a cure. Sometimes healing was simply resonance restored, not a return to who you were, but an alignment with who you had always been beneath the static. And in the silence between sounds, there was peace. The sky began to soften into twilight once more as Orion lingered by the stream. feeling as if the water itself had absorbed his gentle hums, carrying them into the veins of the forest. He had touched something real, not a metaphor or poetic image, but an actual shift in the body's rhythm. He now longed to understand what else lay within the human design that responded to frequency. His mind turned toward ancient tools, instruments once deemed sacred, now being rediscovered not merely as art or ritual, but as medicine. He thought of the Tibetan singing bowls, forged from 7 sacred metals, each representing a celestial body. These bowls didn't simply produce sound, they produced fields. When struck or circled with a mallet, they emitted vibrational waves that traveled not just through air, but through bone, fluid, and fascia. In studies, such sounds had been shown to shift brainwave patterns, calm the nervous system, and even reduce markers of stress. The balls didn't instruct the body to heal, they reminded it how to resonate. Orion closed his eyes again and imagined each organ as a vessel. The heart, a copper bowl. The liver, brass. The spine, silver. The lungs, twin chambers of hollowed bronze. He tapped each with imagined tones. Gentle frequencies matched to function, shape, and soul. And in this silent meditation, he felt a warmth rising through his torso. He had not moved, and yet something within him had. He remembered that the body is not a machine to be fixed, but a field to be tuned. Then came the memory of binaural beats, frequencies produced when 2 slightly different tones are played into each ear. The brain, unable to ignore the difference, responds by creating a third tone, the binaural beat, and entrains to it. This too was not belief, it was measurement. Brain waves shift, focus sharpens, dreams deepen, fear dissolves. He imagined the mind as a metronome, clicking into coherence with a frequency it had forgotten but never lost. He recalled how monks in Tibet would chant not just in groups, but in layers, some producing overtones that reached beyond the physical ear. These harmonics weren't just mystical, they were mathematically precise. Western science had recorded them, broken them down, studied their effects on the vagus nerve, the respiratory cycle, even the cellular level. Healing, Orion realized, didn't always require contact, required resonance. He reached for his journal again. The body listens more deeply than the ears. It is with water, it hears with bone, it hears with memory. In silence, I hear the tones within, the organs calling for alignment, the skin longing for harmony, the spirit asking to be sung home. I do not impose sound upon the body, I offer it, and the body, wise, ancient, willing, chooses its own return. A wind passed through the trees, lifting leaves with gentle rustling. To Orion, it sounded like applause, or perhaps gratitude. He thought of frequencies emitted by emotions, how heart-centered states like gratitude, compassion, and love had been shown to produce coherent electromagnetic patterns, measurable through instruments like HeartMath's biofeedback systems. Gratitude, it seemed, was not just a virtue, it was a vibration, and one of the most healing. He remembered how trauma could distort the body's natural resonance. Like a piano gone slightly out of tune, the body might continue to function, but its music was altered. He had read of sound therapists who used tuning forks near the body's energy field, not to strike it, but to locate pockets of dissonance. The forks would change tone slightly in those areas, not by suggestion, but by resonance. Then, slowly, gently, through attention and frequency, the field would soften, align and rejoin the whole. He found this more beautiful than any medication, not because it replaced science, but because it was science of a more ancient and perhaps more complete kind. As twilight deepened into velvet blue, Orion rose from the stream's edge. He felt lighter, more coherent, not cured but reharmonized. He whispered one final tone into the air, not to fix, not to prove, but to bless. The air carried it softly away. The frequency of thought. Orion continued his journey into the low hills beyond the forest, walking under a sky dimly lit by a pale moon. The earth beneath his feet felt soft, like pages waiting to be written on. The air around him carried a curious stillness, not of silence, but of deep anticipation. He had felt resonance in the quantum field, in the breath of the forest, in the celestial harmonics of the stars, and within the frequencies of his own body. But now he approached the final threshold of vibration, the mind. What if thoughts weren't private? What if every idea, every belief, every emotion was a frequency, broadcast from the human being into the greater field of reality? Could thinking itself be a form of vibration? Could belief shape matter? He sat beneath a lone fig tree and closed his eyes, his attention softening into the stillness of mind. But quickly, as always, came the thoughts, swirling, persistent, layered. Not just words, but images, associations, stories, hopes, doubts. Each thought had a tone, pattern. Some were sharp and anxious, like static. Others were slow, heavy, low-pitched, worry, fatigue, the dragging weight of memory, and still others were bright, light as chimes, thoughts of beauty, peace, joy, possibility. For the first time, Orion did not push them away. He listened. He did not react. He resonated. He thought of the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, who suggested that the act of thought, repeated with intention, could change the electromagnetic field of the brain and body, and in doing so, interact with the field of life itself. He recalled the findings of HeartMath, where synchronized brain and heart wave coherence brought about measurable changes in the body's immune system, stress hormones, and even cognitive function. The idea was simple, yet vast. Consciousness is not just within the body, it is broadcast from it. He had once thought of emotions as reactions. Now he saw them as energy states, waveforms. He remembered that even Einstein once described thoughts as forms of energy moving faster than light. He had dismissed it once as metaphor. Now he considered it literal. If thoughts were energy, then they had frequency, and if they had frequency, they could be tuned. He shifted his attention toward an old memory, a painful one, a trail from long ago. As the image arose, so did the feeling, tightness in his chest, a drop in his stomach. He observed it as a waveform now, not a wound, a dense looping frequency. He breathed into it, humming softly. He offered no story, just vibration. Slowly, the edges of the memory began to blur. The emotion loosened. The wave shifted. He did not need to forget. He only needed to retune. He opened his journal, words forming like ripples on water. Thought is not private. It moves in waves. Fear contracts. High frequency, chaotic. Love expands. Low frequency, coherent, academic. Every belief shapes the body. Every emotion alters the field. My thoughts are not accidents. They are instruments. I tune them to beauty, to truth, to peace. He remembered reading that brain waves shift depending on the quality of attention. That gratitude, joy, and compassion moved the mind into alpha and theta states, where healing and intuition thrived. It wasn't magic, it was resonance. He realized the mind becomes the space it occupies. The moment is all in. A thought repeated becomes a belief. A belief repeated becomes biology. The body follows the mind like an echo. He thought now of affirmations, mantras, prayers, all ancient tools to encode frequency into language. When repeated with emotion, they weren't simply self-help, they were vibrational architecture, and the field responded not to words, but to resonance. Orion closed his eyes again and repeated slowly, "I am aligned, I am whole." He said it not as command, but as vibration. The difference was everything. The fig tree rustled above, and Orion looked up to see its branches swaying gently, as if in approval. It was an instrument, and he was learning slowly to play. The moon had climbed higher, bathing the fig tree in a silver glow. Orion remained still, watching his own thoughts ripple like a river. But tonight, something was different. Instead of feeling swept away by thought, he was watching the frequency beneath it. Each thought, not just its content, but its texture, was a wave, and he had begun to detect its signature. Some felt coarse, erratic, jagged. These were thoughts born of fear, control, or doubt. Others were smooth, coherent, circular. These were thoughts born of trust, openness, and presence. It became clear every thought carried not just meaning, but a measurable energy field, and it was contagious. He remembered the concept of mirror neurons, discovered by neuroscientists in the 1990s. These brain cells responded not only when an individual acted, but also when they observed someone else act. When we see another person smile, cry, wince. Our brain reflects their state. It mirrors their resonance. This wasn't psychology. It was vibration. Empathy then was not merely emotional, it was electromagnetic. When two people sat in close proximity, especially in silence, in presence, their brain waves and heart rhythms could synchronize as Creola and Creola or Creola. Studies in group meditation showed a profound truth. Minds can cohere. The frequency of one can lift the frequency of many. Orion had once felt alone in thought. Now he knew better. The space between people is not empty. It is full of resonance, information, and emotional charge. His mind was not just his own. It was a tuning fork vibrating within a larger symphony. Every idea he offered, every belief he held, became part of the collective field, not metaphorically, but measurably. He thought of cities, the subtle hum of a collective consciousness. He remembered walking through a crowded plaza days ago, feeling a strange heaviness, a hurried dissonance in the air. He understood now. He had been feeling the vibrational tone of that place. Thousands of minds in proximity, all thinking, worrying, desiring, fearing, shaping a field that anyone sensitive enough could feel. And if that was true, he wondered, could a single calm mind, one in harmony, bring coherence to a larger space? Could peace be transmitted? He recalled the work of Dr. David Hawkins, whose studies of consciousness proposed that emotional states had vibrational levels, from shame and guilt at the lowest to peace, joy, and enlightenment at the highest. And the most remarkable claim, one individual vibrating in a high state of coherence could counterbalance thousands in lower vibrational states. Again, this was not fantasy. It aligned with principles of wave interference and resonance. Coherent energy could organize chaos, just as one tuning fork can bring another into vibration, not through force, but by presence. Orion breathed in slowly and smiled. He felt the full responsibility of this truth. His thoughts were not small. His thoughts were acts. They were frequencies woven into the world's tapestry. Even his private thoughts had public consequence, because no thought was truly private. Each carried a field. Each touched the field of another. He opened his journal and wrote, "Every thought is an offering, every belief a ripple. My mind is not a chamber, it is a beacon. What I hold in thought, I cast into the world. May my thoughts be tuned to beauty. May my mind be an instrument of calm." He now understood why monks and sages throughout history spent entire lives tending to the landscape of the mind, not to escape the world, but to heal it from within. One coherent thought, held with love, could shape fields of possibility. And when shared in silence, when felt not spoken, it could become a resonance that restructured a family, a community, a planet. Orion stood beneath the fig tree, feeling this not as idea, but as reality. He whispered, more to the air than to himself, "May the field receive what I become." and in the distance, somewhere unseen, a wind shifted, tuning the world. The following morning, Ariane crossed a vast plain lined with wind-swept grass and stones carved by time. There were no trails here, only the soft footprints of deer, the rise and fall of the earth, and the distant hum of a river bending through the valley like a pulse. He walked with a question now forming deep inside him. If individuals were frequencies, and thoughts, beliefs, and emotions were vibration, then what of communities, nations, humanity as a whole? Could entire cultures resonate? Could cities carry tonal identities just like people? Could the world itself be tuned? Orion soon came upon an old circular ruin, the remnants of an ancient amphitheatre, its stone seats weathered and overgrown with lichen and moss. He sat at its centre, closing his eyes. The air around the space had a strange softness, as if shaped by invisible hands. He remembered something he had once read about sacred architecture, how ancient temples and cities were often constructed according to specific harmonic proportions. The Great Pyramid of Giza, the Parthenon, Stonehenge, each reflected mathematical principles aligned with sound, light, and planetary cycles. These weren't monuments, they were resonance machines, designed not just to stand, but to sing. Orion imagined what it must have been like to live in a place where the entire city vibrated in coherence with the cosmos, where the streets were laid according to solar alignments, where walls echoed with healing frequencies, where rituals and sound were part of civic life, not entertainment but entrainment. He opened his journal and wrote, "A city is not built with stones, but with vibration. A home is not sacred for its size, but for its frequency. What we build, we broadcast. What we surround ourselves with, we become." In recent times, he remembered, researchers had begun to measure collective coherence, not through architecture, but through data. Satellites, heart monitors, and magnetometers had shown that mass human emotions, such as during global meditations or major world events, could influence the Earth's magnetic field. This was not mysticism, it was resonance. The Global Coherence Initiative had found that when groups meditated together across continents with synchronized intention, measurable shifts occurred. In the brain, in the heart, and even in the planet's electromagnetic field. The Earth, it seemed, listened. Orion closed his eyes again and listened too. The amphitheatre, though ruined, still held a frequency. He hummed softly. A single note. The walls returned it gently. He hummed again, shifting pitch. Again, a soft response. The stones, though long silent, still remembered resonance. He stood and began walking the edge of the circle, his voice now steady, his step rhythmic. It was as though he were waking up an old memory, not his own, the world's. He thought of modern cities now, built in grids, cemented in speed and efficiency, lit by harsh angles and noise, where resonance was not considered, only function, control, expansion. Perhaps that's why so many felt exhausted in cities. not because of pace, but because of dissonance, a constant mismatch between the human frequency and the world it was made to inhabit. But what if cities could be retuned, not by rebuilding from stone, but by recalibrating from within? What if people gathered in silent circles on rooftops? What if sound baths became part of public transport? What if the city had moments of stillness? Would the streets feel different? Would crime decrease? Would hearts beat more slowly? He imagined a new kind of architecture, not for shelter, but for alignment. Homes designed to reflect morning light into geometric spirals of calm. Hospitals constructed to human healing frequencies. Wolves that absorbed fear and exhaled peace. Schools where children tuned to binaural rhythms before learning. At temples not of religion, but of resonance. Open to all. No sermons, only sound. He opened his journal and wrote, "The city must become a song. The song must become a city. When we build with harmony, we heal more than space. We heal memory. A tuned world is not a dream. It is a return." As the sun began to descend, Orion stood in the center of the ruin and whispered a single tone. Not loud, but pure. The old stones shimmered softly in reply, not in sound, in stillness.
The type of silence that holds the memory of music. He smiled, knowing now that the future was not something to be built. It was something to be tuned, and the instrument was the heart.
Orion descended from the stone circle at twilight, his shadow long on the grass. The journey had changed him, not in the way fire transforms wood, but in the way a string, once tuned, never forgets the pitch it was meant to sing. He had touched the quantum world of frequency, the silent forest of breath, the music of the spheres, the healing waves within his body, the resonant mind, and the field of collective consciousness. Now he returned, not as a seeker, but as a note, part of the greater chord. He reached the edge of a lake as dusk fell fully. The water was perfectly still, like black glass. Above, the stars emerged one by one, silent in their appearance, patient in their presence. Orion removed his sandals and stepped into the shallows. The coldness grounded him. The ripples he created pulsed outward in gentle concentric circles. He watched them fade. He breathed. He listened. Nothing stirred. Then he heard it. Within, a single tone, not a sound exactly, more like a feeling, a vibration that wasn't coming from him, but through him. It was the culmination of all he had remembered. He sat at the water's edge, eyes closed, spine straight, hands open to the night. The breath slowed, the thoughts settled, his body softened, the field opened, and the tone emerged, at first subtle, then clear, then everything. He remembered in sequence all the truths not as facts, but as vibrations, that the universe began as a frequency, not a bang, that light is vibration, that sound forms shape, that every organ, every cell, every thought is a tone that the earth sings, that stars pulse, aye, that love expands coherence, that fear contracts it, that what we hold inside is not private. It broadcasts that a single harmonic mind can retune a space, that silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of listening. And then, for a brief moment, everything stilled. His heartbeat, his breath, even his name. There was no Orion anymore. There was only frequency, a single field, a resonance beyond identification, beyond time, beyond need. And into that stillness he offered his final tone, not with his mouth, but with his presence. It emerged from nowhere and everywhere, soft and clear, a wordless hum, a vibration that matched the frequency of the stars above, the water beneath, the silence within. It grew not louder, but deeper. It did not rise, it expanded, not out, but through all things, the mountain, the wind, the cells in his body, the memories he once called his own, became a single song, not in metaphor, in reality. He was the tuning fork, the musician, the instrument, the field. He opened his eyes, and the world was the same, and utterly different, not because it had changed, but because he now saw it in tune. The trees vibrated, the water shimmered, the moon hummed, and inside him was no longer a question, only music. He reached for his journal one last time and wrote, "The universe is a song I have always known. My body is its echo, my thoughts its reflection, my silence its resting tone. I no longer seek frequency. I am it. Let what I think, what I speak, what I build, what I breathe, be in harmony, not as discipline, but as nature, not to be perfect, but to be tuned. Let me walk as music. Let me become the tone I was born to offer, and let that tone, simple, true, be enough." He closed the book. He closed his eyes, and for the first time, he did not listen for the frequency. He was the frequency, and it was beautiful. Limitations, it was whole, and it was enough.